Hello friends, and a warm welcome to Potato Booksy. Today, we're diving into The End of Faith by Sam Harris. Have you ever wondered, what if the very faith we cherish as our most precious inheritance is actually our greatest weakness? I can guarantee you this. By the time you finish listening to this audiobook, the way you see the world will be changed forever. This isn't just another audiobook. It's the key that unlocks those old, rusted locks in your mind, the ones you didn't even know existed. Many of you might feel a strange restlessness in your life. You look at the conflicts, the hatred, and the violence happening around the world, and you wonder, where is all this coming from? You see people around you believing things without a shred of evidence or reasoning, and inside, you feel a constant struggle. And if you're someone who's been searching for the answers to these questions, right, the kind that keeps you up at night, then this audiobook will help you understand those problems right down to their roots. It will reveal how our habit of blindly accepting ideas comes at a heavy cost, both personally and as a society. This audiobook promises to set you intellectually free. It will give you a lens to see the world with far greater clarity. And it will help you build a strong moral framework to decide what's right and what's wrong, not based on some old book or someone's word, but on reason and empathy. If you're afraid to question your own beliefs, or you think certain topics are off limits, then maybe this audiobook isn't for you. But if you're ready to face the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it might be, then get ready for a journey that will shake you to your core. This audiobook is especially for those who want to unlock their full potential, who want better tools to face life's challenges, or who are searching for new paths toward positive change. Here, we're going to uncover truths that might leave you stunned, especially when we explore how even ordinary faith can unknowingly lay the groundwork for extremism. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Belief. Why accepting something without evidence is the most dangerous idea of all. Hello, let's begin this journey with a question that's simple on the surface, yet deeply profound. What do you believe? And why? Have you ever dug down to the roots of your deepest beliefs? Sam Harris opens his book right here, and it's a starting point that can make us uncomfortable. He points out that in our society, especially when it comes to religion, believing something without evidence is not only accepted, it's often celebrated as a virtue. We call it faith. But is it truly a virtue, or is it a mental weakness we've dressed up in the robe of respect? Think about it. If a friend told you there's an invisible unicorn living in his backyard, what would you say? You'd probably ask him for proof. And if he said, "I don't need proof, I just believe," you'd start worrying about his mental health. But when billions of people say the exact same thing about an invisible, all-powerful being, we call it faith and treat it with respect. Harris calls out this double standard. He argues that believing something to be true without sufficient evidence is a flaw, no matter the subject. So why is it that in the realm of religion, we suddenly decide it's a virtue? This is the first jolt the author delivers. He forces us to ask, should even our most sacred beliefs be placed beyond questioning? Is faith some kind of magical word that turns any claim into truth without the need for scrutiny? In this chapter, we'll dig deep into the very nature of faith, what it truly is. It's not just a harmless personal feeling. Faith is a mental framework that teaches us that asking certain questions is wrong, and doubting certain ideas is a sin. It tells us that some books are so sacred that every single word in them must be taken as literal truth, even if those words stand in direct conflict with modern science, logic, and morality. Harris challenges us to think of any other area of life where we make decisions purely on faith. Would you deposit your money in a bank that says, "We have no security system, just trust us"? Would you let a surgeon operate on you who says, "I've never studied medicine, but I have faith I can do this"? Of course not. Everywhere else you demand proof. You check qualifications. You rely on reason. So why, when it comes to life's most important questions, like how did the universe come into being? What is our purpose? What happens after we die? Why do we slam the door shut on reason and evidence? This chapter will make you realize that respecting faith often means disrespecting reason. It's a mental habit that stops us from seeing the world as it truly is and pushes us to see it the way we wish it to be. Now, you might be thinking, what's the harm? If someone quietly believes something in their own home, how does that hurt anyone else? Here's where Harris makes a critical point. Our beliefs give birth to our actions. What we believe shapes what we do. If a person truly believes that a certain holy book commands the killing of non-believers, that's no longer just an idea. It becomes a dangerous ideology, one that can lead to violence. If someone believes prayer alone can cure illness and chooses to pray for their sick child instead of taking them to a doctor, that belief can cost the child's life. Harris argues that no belief is ever truly private. Beliefs spread into the world, and they have consequences. When we glorify an irrational process like faith, we open the door for every kind of dangerous and absurd idea to find a place in society. We lose our ability to separate good ideas from bad ones, because our standard is no longer evidence, but the strength of conviction. Perhaps the most powerful argument in this chapter is that faith shuts down dialogue. Imagine two people. One believes God promised him a holy land. The other believes the very same God promised that exact land to him. Each has their own holy book backing their claim. Now, how do they resolve this dispute? Not through reason or evidence, because the very nature of their beliefs places them beyond reason. They can't truly converse. All they can do is repeat their own convictions. And when conversation ends, violence begins. Harris says, faith locks us inside separate cages of belief, pages from which we cannot reach each other. It keeps us from meeting on common ground, on a shared reality, built on shared reasoning. And in a world where nuclear weapons exist, such a state of affairs can be catastrophically dangerous. Why does it not? This chapter will leave you wondering. Could it be that many of the world's greatest problems stem from this one habit of believing without evidence? Are we honoring a kind of mental wiring that turns us against one another? But here's the question. Has faith always been this destructive? Or did something happen in history that turned it into a weapon? What were the events that made human beings, in the name of faith, behave like beasts? That's exactly what we'll uncover in our next chapter. Chapter 2. The Bloody Pages of History. How Faith Turned Humans Against Each Other. In the previous chapter, we learned that believing without evidence is, in itself, a deeply problematic process. But now, we face an even harder question. Is this just a theoretical problem, or has it led to real, concrete, and horrifying consequences? In this chapter, Sam Harris takes us on a journey through history, a journey not meant for the faint of heart. This journey opens the pages we often prefer to ignore. It shows us how, in the name of religion and faith, human history has been stained with blood. This is no exaggeration. It's a harsh truth. Harris argues that religious violence isn't some rare deviation or a simple misinterpretation of doctrine. It is, in many cases, the direct and logical outcome of what is written in many holy texts. When you teach people that a certain book is the infallible word of God, and that book says anyone who rejects your faith is evil, sinful, and deserves punishment, you are laying the ideological groundwork for violence. It's like pouring gasoline over a pile of dry grass, then hoping no spark ever lands. So, let's take a few steps back in history. Think of the Christian Crusades, religious wars that were far more than mere land disputes. These were holy wars. Blessed by the Pope himself, thousands of soldiers and ordinary people marched into foreign lands, believing they were carrying out the will of God. They thought killing infidels was a holy act that would earn them a place in heaven. In the process, they slaughtered countless innocent men, women, and children, all in the name of faith. Then there was the Spanish Inquisition, where the church systematically persecuted and burned alive those suspected of heresy. Their crime, daring to question the church's teachings or simply thinking differently. Victims were tortured until they confessed to being servants of the devil, and all of this was done under the banner of saving their souls. Eris pushes us to ask, where does such cruelty draw its strength from? It comes directly from the religious doctrines that teach that faith is so important, it can justify taking another person's life. And this isn't just ancient history. Harris urges us to look at the modern world, directly addressing Islamic extremism, a topic many shy away from. He points out that the 9/11's attackers were neither stupid nor insane. By their own standards, they were acting with complete rationality. They genuinely believed they were participating in a holy jihad, that dying would earn them a paradise filled with divine rewards, and that by punishing a devil like America, they were pleasing Allah. Every step they took was inspired by their religious faith. They did not fear death, because their beliefs taught them that death was merely the doorway to a better life. Harris argues that until we admit their beliefs directly motivated their actions, we'll never get to the root of the problem. Instead, we'll keep looking for answers in poverty, politics, or US foreign policy, external causes that, while relevant, are not the core driver. The real cause lies in the ideas planted in their minds, ideas their faith is declared sacred and beyond question. This chapter raises an extremely uncomfortable question. Are all religions equally dangerous? Harris's answer is no. He argues that some holy texts and doctrines promote violence and intolerance far more explicitly than others. A religion whose sacred book teaches you to love your enemies cannot be weighed on the same scale as one whose holy book calls for waging war against non-believers. This doesn't mean one religion is good and another is bad. Rather, it means some belief systems are simply less compatible with a modern, multicultural, and globalized world. Harris stresses that we must learn to judge ideas based on their merits and flaws, not on how many people believe them or how old they are. If an idea breeds violence, hatred, and division, we should not respect it just because it happens to be religious. But here, a deeper question emerges. Many will argue, that's only about extremists. Ordinary, peaceful, religious people aren't like that. And this is where Harris delivers another shocking point. He says that moderate, liberal believers unintentionally act as a shield for extremists. How? Because they keep alive the idea that faith should be respected. They create an environment where questioning or criticizing religion is seen as rude or inappropriate. And in that environment, extremist ideologies can thrive, because, after all, they too are simply a form of faith. When you say Jesus walked on water or Moses parted the sea, you're leaving the door open for irrationality. So when someone else comes along and says they believe God wants them to kill non-believers, you've already weakened your ability to challenge them on rational grounds, because you've suspended the very rules of reason yourself. So, does this mean there's nothing good in religion? Are morality, community, and life's meaning, the things religion claims to give us, all just an illusion? We'll try to answer that complex question in the next chapter. Chapter 3, The Mask of Faith. Do we really need God for morality and peace of mind? So far, we've looked at the dangerous aspects of faith and its bloody history. And after hearing all this, a natural question might be forming in your mind. But what about the good side of religion? Doesn't religion make us moral? Doesn't it give us comfort in hard times, and a sense of belonging to a community? It's a perfectly fair question, and in this chapter, Sam Harris attempts to strip away that positive mask of faith. He challenges the common assumption that for morality, love, compassion, and a sense of life's meaning, we need religion or God. His argument isn't that there's nothing good in religion, rather it's that whatever is good in religion isn't inherently religious. These virtues and feelings are part of human nature, and they can exist and even flourish without any supernatural belief. Let's dig deeper into this idea. First, morality. Do we really need a book written thousands of years ago to teach us the difference between right and wrong? Do we really need the fear of a God, one who threatens to send us to hell just to treat each other well? Harris says, absolutely not. He invites us to try a simple thought experiment. Do you believe it's wrong to cause a child to suffer? You'd almost certainly say, yes, of course it's wrong. Now, ask yourself why it's wrong. Is it wrong because a holy book says so? Or is it wrong because it causes that child terrible pain? For any rational and compassionate human being, the answer is clear. It's wrong because we understand suffering. We can feel empathy. We know we wouldn't want to experience that kind of pain ourselves. Our morality is rooted in the awareness of other beings' capacity for happiness or suffering, not in obeying some ancient command. Harris argues that religion has hijacked morality. It has convinced us that without it, we'd be morally lost. But the truth is, our moral foundation comes from our shared human experience and reason. In fact, so-called religious morality can often be outright immoral. For example, when a religion calls homosexuality a sin or treats women as inferior to men, it's promoting suffering and discrimination, both of which go against any rational moral framework. Now, let's talk about comfort and life's meaning. Many people say faith gives them the strength to face life's hardships, believing there's someone above watching over them, or that they'll reunite with loved ones after death. No doubt, those beliefs can feel deeply comforting. Harris doesn't deny that. But he asks, should we live by comforting lies, or should we face the truth, even if it's hard? Should a doctor tell a cancer patient, you're perfectly healthy, just because it would make them feel better? No, that would be cruel. In the same way, Harris believes we should learn to embrace reality in all its grandeur and complexity, rather than clinging to false, childlike stories about the universe. Life's meaning doesn't come from some outside source. We create it ourselves. Our relationships, our work, art, science, the beauty of nature, helping others, these can all be sources of a meaningful life. And none of them require any supernatural belief. What about a sense of community? Churches, mosques, and temples do bring people together and give them a sense of belonging. That's true. But is that the only way to build a community? Not at all. We can create strong, meaningful communities through sports clubs, book clubs, charities, scientific societies, and countless other avenues. Religious communities often rely on an us versus them mindset. We who believe and they who don't. This creates a divided kind of belonging. A secular community, on the other hand, can be built on shared interests, common values, and our shared humanity, making it far more inclusive and healthy. Harris wants us to see that the human needs religion claims to fulfill, morality, meaning, comfort, community, can actually be met better through secular means. We don't need the false promises of faith. We need to trust our reason, our empathy, and our creativity. Once we realize that we're not dependent on religion for these good things, we can see its dangerous and divisive aspects more clearly, and feel free to reject them. But so far, we've been talking about logic and evidence. Faith and science, however, have always shared a certain tension. Can the two truly coexist? Or is this an epic battle where only one can win? That's exactly the question we'll explore in the next chapter. Chapter 4. The Great Clash Between Reason and Faith. When science uncovers the truth, where does faith hide? So far, we've discussed the moral and historical aspects of faith. But now, we're stepping into the arena where faith and the modern world collide most direct. This faith in the world is desired for ending the firstborn. In this chapter, Sam Harris shows us how faith and science are two completely opposite, fundamentally incompatible ways of arriving at the truth. This isn't a minor disagreement. It's a deep, core-level conflict about how we understand the very nature of reality. On one side, we have science, built on observation, experimentation, evidence, and a constant process of self-correction. On the other side, we have faith, rooted in divine revelations, ancient scriptures, and beliefs that must never be questioned or altered. Harris argues that there can be no true compromise between the two. Think about how science works. A scientist forms a hypothesis and then gathers evidence to test it. If the evidence supports the hypothesis, it's accepted. But only temporarily. If the evidence disproves it, the hypothesis is either revised or completely discarded. In science, no idea or theory is secret. Newton's laws were refined by Einstein. Every theory is constantly challenged and can be replaced if better evidence emerges. The strength of science lies in its humility, in admitting that we don't know everything and that we might be wrong. Its ultimate goal is to gain reliable knowledge about the universe, knowledge that works, knowledge that lets us create vaccines, send spacecraft into the far reaches of space, and develop technologies like the internet. Now, look at how faith operates. Faith begins with a conclusion, one that's already written in a sacred book, or was revealed by a prophet. For example, claims like the universe was created in 6 days, or a certain man was the Son of God. These conclusions are treated as the ultimate truth. They're not open to testing or challenge. If any evidence contradicts these beliefs, like fossil records or genetic studies that support evolution, a devout believer will reject the evidence, not the belief. The goal of faith is to preserve belief, no matter what. It's a mindset that says, I don't care what the evidence shows, I'll keep believing this. Harris points out that this is the core difference. Science encourages us to change our minds when reality demands it, while faith encourages us to turn away from reality. Many people argue that science and religion deal with separate domains. They say science answers the how questions, meaning questions like, how does the universe work? While religion claims to answer the why questions, like, what is our purpose? This idea is called non-overlapping magisteria, or NOMA. Harris completely rejects it. He says it's a false and artificial division. Religion doesn't just claim to answer why questions. It also makes plenty of claims about how the world works. The virgin birth, walking on water, raising the dead, prayers being answered. These are all factual claims about the physical world. And these are claims that can be tested scientifically. Whenever they are tested, they're always found to be false. Harris argues that religion constantly trespasses into science's territory, and when science proves it wrong, religion retreats, hiding behind metaphor or the idea of spiritual truth. The clearest example of this great conflict is the debate over the theory of evolution. Science has mountains of evidence showing that life slowly evolved over millions of years. We have fossils, we have DNA evidence, and we can literally watch bacteria and viruses evolve right before our eyes. On the other side, some religious beliefs claim that humans were created in their present form directly by God. Both of these claims cannot be true at the same time. Either we evolved, or we were created. When believers reject evolution, they're not just rejecting a single scientific fact, they're rejecting the entire process of reasoning and evidence. They're saying their ancient story matters more than every single piece of proof we've ever discovered. For Harris, this is the peak of intellectual dishonesty, like creating a world where personal preferences and emotions outweigh objective facts. And in such a world, real progress becomes impossible. Science shows us that we are evolved beings, living on a tiny planet in an immense and indifferent universe. For some, that truth may feel unsettling, even frightening. But Harris believes there's a deep beauty and wonder in it. It frees us from false comforts and pushes us to trust one another and rely on our own reasoning. Still, a question remains. If we completely let go of religion and faith, what are we left with? Is it truly possible to live a meaningful and moral life without religion? And if so, is there another path to spirituality? That is the final, and perhaps most important, question we'll explore in our last chapter. Chapter 5. A New Dawn of Consciousness. How to live a meaningful and moral life without religion. In the previous chapters, we've shaken the very roots of faith, looked at its historical consequences, and understood its ongoing clash with science. Now we've arrived at the final, and perhaps the most important, destination in this journey. If we dismantle the entire structure of religion, what will we build on its remains? Will only emptiness and despair be left behind? Sam Harris's answer is a resounding no. In this last chapter, he leads us toward a new path, one built on reason, yet still profound, meaningful, and even spiritual. He shows us that a better world without religion is not only possible, but necessary. This is a call to a new dawn of consciousness. Harris begins by reaffirming one crucial point. We do not need religion to have morality. As we've discussed before, our moral compass is rooted in reason and empathy. We can imagine a moral landscape, one built on the well-being of all living beings. Any action or policy that increases happiness for conscious creatures and reduces suffering is good. Any action that magnifies pain, misery, or harm is bad. It's a simple framework, but an incredibly powerful one. For this, we don't need divine commandments or the fear of hell. We just have to acknowledge a basic truth. All of us seek happiness and wish to avoid suffering. From this foundation, we can make moral decisions on issues like same-sex marriage, women's rights, and scientific research, topics that are often difficult for many religious systems to address. Harris also believes that science itself can guide us in building a moral society. Fields like psychology, neuroscience, and sociology can help us understand which social structures and personal habits maximize human happiness. The second major point Harris makes is about rescuing the idea of spirituality from the grip of religion. We often link spirituality to worship, rituals, and supernatural beliefs, but Harris talks about a very different kind of spirituality. A rational form of spirituality. Harris explains that true spirituality means deeply exploring the nature of your mind and consciousness, understanding how your thoughts and emotions work, and reducing your suffering through self-awareness. Techniques like meditation can be powerful tools for this journey. Meditation isn't a mystical or religious act. It's simply a way to train your mind, just like exercise trains your body. Through meditation, we can learn to observe the flow of our thoughts without getting entangled in them. We can recognize the illusory nature of our ego and experience greater peace and clarity in the present moment. Many saints and sages have called this experience enlightenment or liberation. But Harris argues that you don't need to believe in any religious doctrine to achieve it. It's a natural capacity of the human mind, one that anyone can develop. In closing, Harris paints a bold and hopeful vision for the future. Imagine a world where children learn critical thinking and the scientific method in schools, not religious dogma. A world where public policy debates are grounded in evidence and reason, not in interpretations of sacred texts. A world where we place our shared humanity above nationality or religious identity. This isn't some utopian fantasy or an impossible dream. It's the goal of building a society rooted in reason, compassion, and our shared human values. Harris admits, this path won't be easy. The habits of faith have been deeply ingrained in our culture for thousands of years. But he also reminds us that the history of human progress is the history of reason triumphing over superstition. We've let go of the belief that diseases are caused by evil spirits. We've let go of the idea that kings rule by divine right. And now, it's time to let go of the notion that believing without evidence is a virtue. The end of faith closes not with pessimism, but with a call to action. It's a call to embrace our greatest gift, our ability to reason, and use it to build a more peaceful, just, and rational world. It urges us to wake from our slumber and welcome a new dawn of consciousness. Conclusion. So, my friends, this was the bold and thought-provoking journey through Sam Harris's The End of Faith. We've traveled a long and often challenging road together. We've seen how faith, the act of believing without evidence, is not just a private matter, but a dangerous mental habit. We've turned the dark pages of history, where faith turned humans against each other. And we've challenged the assumption that morality and comfort require religion at all. And we've seen how science and reason stand as a strong challenge to the claims of faith. In the end, we explored the possibility of a new path, one built on reason, compassion, and a deep understanding of consciousness. The purpose of this audiobook was never to hurt anyone's feelings, but to spark thought. It wasn't about telling you what to think, but showing you how to think and giving you the tools to do it. Sam Harris leaves us with a simple yet powerful message. Our beliefs have consequences. In a world where we now possess the power to destroy ourselves, we simply cannot afford to keep living in irrationality. We must take responsibility for our ideas. We must have the courage to ask questions, even when they make us uncomfortable. We must learn to place evidence above emotion. Thank you so much for staying with me on this journey. I hope these ideas have sparked some new questions and opened new possibilities in your mind. And if this audiobook has given you even one new thought or made you pause and reflect, please give this video a like. Your support tells us that content like this is truly reaching you. In the comments, let us know what you think about this topic. Do you agree with Sam Harris's arguments, or do you disagree? Your opinion means a lot to us. And yes, if you want to keep hearing deep, life-changing audiobook summaries in the future, don't forget to subscribe to Audiobook and hit that bell icon so you never miss our next video. Once again, thank you so much. I'll see you in the next audiobook. Until then, keep thinking and keep learning.
All the messy Charlotte was a sneak where the white wrapped ease and small towering misty grid.